Hi everyone, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. And today I'm going to talk to you about my 5-star prediction. There is a number of reasons why I buy books. So sometimes I buy them as an experiment. Sometimes I buy them based on somebody's recommendation. Sometimes I do genuinely think that this book would be my cup of tea and I have very high expectations for the book. And so today we're going to talk about this book. So without further ado, let's begin. The first book that I have very high hopes for is Please Look After Mother by Kyung Sok Shin. This is a Korean book which is very famous in Korea. I feel like it's a bestseller. Yeah, this is million copy bestseller. This is an exploration of motherhood. One of the topics that I really love in literature is the topic of family. So basically in this book we follow a family and there is this woman who is a mother to the family and she is always there for them. She is always there to support them, to encourage them and to help, and her children take it for granted. They just take it because it's there, it has always been there, and they expect it to always be that way. However, one day their mother takes a train to Seoul and she disappears. Everybody starts looking for her, obviously, and everybody starts looking closely into her life and finding, I guess, some of her belongings, and they discover more about her as a woman. So they discover her desires and hopes that she kept hidden. During this search they discovered the truth about motherhood and her relationship with her children. Sounds actually very interesting and very good. And also I heard Rap Monster from BTS recommend this book, so this is one more just encouragement to pick it up and read. Next book is a Japanese classics, and this is The Waiting Years by Fumiko Enchi. This sounds absolutely brilliant. Like, this sounds like something I'm going to just devour. This is in late 19th century Japan. We follow a story of this woman who is a wife to a government official, and she is sent to Tokyo on a serious mission. She has to choose the official mistress for her husband. She will be offered different girls from different families from among hundreds of geishas and daughters offered up for sale by their families. She must select a respectable young girl to become her husband's new lover. And the woman, obviously she is torn on the inside, but on the outside she has to remain calm. Like, how interesting. Can you imagine what a drama it should be, and like what a dilemma it should be for this woman. Like, I love character driven stories, their minds and their souls and their struggles. This sounds like it's going to be one of those books, so I am very excited for this. Next book is The Sense of an Ending by Julian Barnes. This is a very short book, very quick read. It's a winner of the Man Booker Prize 2011, and there is also a lot of praise for this book on the back of it. From what I gather from the synopsis, this book follows this old man who is already retired. He had a good life, he had a good marriage, but then he had a very quiet divorce. He never tried to hurt anybody, so he led a very quiet and peaceful life. When he was young, a child, in school, he had a group of close-knit friends who shared together certain interests for books, for girls. They shared together jokes and rumors. He had a very close friend whose name was Adrian, and the way blurb says it, that like the Adrian was almost the most intelligent and the most smart boy, but the group, they swear to stay friends together forever. Later their lives just apparently grew apart, and so our main character, he just had this very quiet and regular, not very different, nothing special life. He definitely doesn't remember hurting anybody or doing anything bad to anybody. However, the way blurb says it, memory can play tricks on you, and one day he receives a letter from his lawyer. That's where the blurb ends. I'm excited to figure out what happened. Again, it sounds like a very character-driven story, having something to do with memory and childhood and friendship, but at the same time something darker and something more mysterious than that. So sounds very good. So this is another book. Next 5-star prediction is an English classics, and it's in this beautiful Penguin English Library edition. And this is Melmoth the Wanderer. This book is quite chunky, it's quite a big one, it has 700 pages, but it sounds really interesting and fascinating to me. So in this book we follow a character who had a bargain with the devil, and he sold his soul to the devil in exchange for immortality. Apparently things didn't go quite as he planned, and now he preys on the helpless in their darkest moments, offering to ease their suffering if they will take his place and release him from his centuries of tortured wanderings. As it sounds just so good and so interesting. The topic of immortality, it always fascinates me. I don't really know what to expect of this book, but just the premise of it and just like the idea of it sounds very interesting to me and something that I would love to explore, and that's why it's a 5-star prediction for me. The next book is also, I guess, can be considered English classics, and this is The Corner That Held Them by Sylvia Townsend Warner. Now, I have read one book by Sylvia Townsend Warner before, which is Only Willows. That book wasn't my favorite, maybe it just wasn't the time for it just because of the writing style. However, this one, like the topic of it, sounds so interesting and fascinating to me. It has something to do with a convent. It has something to do with the nuns in the 14th century. In the 14th century, becoming a nun was often a business transaction rather than a spiritual calling. It is small wonder then that the inhabitants of the Benedictine convent are prey to worldly ambitions, frustrations, pleasures, and jealousies. An outbreak of the Black Death, the collapse of the convent spire, and the nuns' disappearance are the drama that strike the community, brought vividly to life in Sylvia Townsend Warner's masterpiece. Nuns, with all of their struggles and desires, jealousies, sounds like something very interesting to me, so that's why it's also a 5-star prediction for me. Next book is an Iranian novel by an Iranian writer, and this is I Hid My Voice. And again, this is on the topic of family, but even more on the topic of love, acceptance, and understanding. These are the topics that I really love in literature, and topics that make me feel, you know, good and warm and just happy when I read stories like that. In this book, we follow a young boy who is 4 years old, but he still hasn't started talking. His family is concerned. They went to a doctor. The doctor said not to worry, that everything is going to be fine. However, his family starts seeing him as underdeveloped child. They call him dumb. They play jokes on him and tricks, and they really see him already as a failure. And so the boy does as well. Eventually, his grandmother on his mother's side starts just looking after him and developing relationship with him and just, you know, giving him the love and the understanding that the boy needs. And eventually, the way Blur puts it, the boy will be able to experience some happiness and finally find his voice. Like, I am sure that I am going to adore this book. Like, I have no doubts, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be one of my new favorites, probably. Next book is a very well-known one, and I'm sure so many of you have already read it, and it has been on my TBR for so long, so I think I will just make like a 24-hour readathon at some point, and I will just read this one book, and this is The Kite Runner by Khalid Hosseini. This has to do something with friendship. So apparently we follow a story of 2 young boys who live in Kabul. One of them is son of a rich family who lives in this grand mansion with marble floors and tapestries. He lives in this wonderful house full of riches. His other friend, he is a son of the family servants, and he lives in this small clay hut. And the boys are inseparable. They play together. one of the rich boy's dreams is to win this kite competition, and so his friend says that he will do anything to help him do that. But apparently something happens, and something happens to their friendship after that. I read a comic like based on this book, like a graphic novel, but it was so long ago and I really don't remember what happened. But I remember loving that graphic novel so much, so I'm very excited to come back and read the full version, the full book. I'm sure it's going to be a 5-star read for me. My next 5-star prediction is The Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko. It's in this beautiful Penguin Classics edition. I really like this edition. It's so stunning. This book tells a story of an army veteran of mixed ancestry who returns home to the reservation. He is deeply scarred by his experiences as a prisoner to the Japanese, and later, after returning home, by the rejection that he encounters from his people. And as it says in the blurb, only by immersing himself in the Indian past and its traditions can he begin to regain the peace that was taken from him. Masterfully written, Ceremony, a novel that is in itself a ceremony of healing, remains one of the most profound and moving works of Native American literature. A book about healing, about finding your way back to your ancestry and back to your roots. Sounds very good to me, and I have very high hopes for this book as well. Next 5-star prediction is by a German author who won the Nobel Prize in 2019, and this is The Moravian Knights by Peter Handke. And this is a story exploring mind of an aging writer with all of its angers and worries and fears and pleasures, and it follows his life, which mirrors the recent history of Western Europe. And Peter Handke is said to be Germany's one of the best and greatest modern writers, and I am excited to explore his works and get introduced to him. The last 5-star prediction for me will be a huge book which is very big, and this is The Eighth Life by Nino Harachishvili. This book was initially written in German because Nina Harachishvili, she is a Georgian author, so she has Georgian ancestry, but she immigrated to Germany when she was a child, and so now she writes plays and books in both German and Georgian. So this book was initially written in German and became a bestseller in Germany. It is also well known in Russia because it has to do with Soviet Union. And in this book we follow a story of a family. It's like a family saga living in Soviet Union throughout the 20th century. It's not just one person, it's like the whole family, a few generations of family. And we start with a young girl living in Georgia with her father, and they have like a chocolate shop, and they're very famous in the region because their chocolate is said to give like a very unique experience. But when she meets her husband, and her husband is posted to St. Petersburg, it's not said which revolution. We had a lot of revolutions in the 20th century, but he is posted in the center of revolution, I guess maybe 1917, maybe. So she follows him to Russia and she memorizes this chocolate recipe, and it doesn't say what happens next but it says that Stasia, it's her name, the main character's name, is the first in a symphony of grand but all too often doomed romances that swirl from sweet to sour in the epic tale of the Red Century. Apparently there will be also a lot of romances, but I'm excited to explore this novel. It must be very good. And there you have it, guys, my 10 books that I predict will be 5-star reads for me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found some interesting books. Let me know in the comments what books do you expect to be 5 stars for you, that you have in your collection and that are on your TBR. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a very good day, staying safe, and I will see you soon in my next videos. Thank you very much. Bye.